All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our second of many Zuken E3 WireWorks presentations. Today is Untangling the Challenges of Electrical Mechanical Design. My name is John Brown,
I'm Eric Van Essen.
And I'm Ted Lee. Good morning.
and we'll be here with you for the next hour or so to walk you through some of the things that we've got to show you related to how SolidWorks and E3 work together. Um, let's get started. So just a quick agenda. We'd like to recap, since this is a series of webinars that we're trying to string together to cover all of the functionality inside of E3 WireWorks. I'd like to do a quick recap. We'd like to talk a little bit about how we're meeting business requirements, why Javelin and E3, just one success story, then of course the demonstration, which I know you all want to see, followed up by some questions and answers. So we always like to keep these web presentations as interactive as possible, so we are going to start with a quick poll so you guys aren't off the hook out there. And so quick recap, you are attending a series of webinars, and last month we covered schematics and panel design quite in depth. Today we're going to cover those topics again because they're certainly the mainstay of electrical design. We're going to shorten them up a little bit so that we save some time to get into our cable design capabilities, as well as an important aspect or feature that we are bringing to market in terms of integrating the electrical and the mechanical design. So we're going to be highlighting the SolidWorks integration aspects of E3 WireWorks today. So we're very excited about that. So hang with us. In terms of solving some of the business problems we've heard out there, and talking to many customers, these are the things that we've heard. The current electrical design process is very labor intensive. We have just heard this over and over and over. It's probably the number one thing, Eric, I would say we hear from people when we talk to them. Would you agree?
Completely. That's really what's holding people up.
So we're gonna solve that problem today. A lot of energy is spent manually updating bills of materials, wire lists, revisions. An accurate bill of material just doesn't seem to be available early enough. Design errors are occurring because things are difficult to keep up to date. When you have to update that same piece of information in multiple locations, inevitably we're going to make mistakes. So I won't go through all of these. I'm sure that everybody out there is reading through them. We'll kind of keep it moving along. Let's, just to make sure we've still got your attention out there, let's launch one more. Let's keep it moving. Why Javelin Technologies? We have a proven track record of finding leading solutions like SolidWorks and some of the other products that we've brought to market. We have a very strong foundation. We're not, even with the tough times of last year, we haven't shrunk in size. We're still 45 employees. We've been in business for over a dozen years, and there's a number of accolades that we won along the way. We have a very proven track record. We have a solid infrastructure, and I believe we have a great reputation out there in terms of providing quality training and implementation to make sure that the solutions that you do purchase from us don't end up on a shelf. These are things that are going to end up contributing to your overall business. For those of you who maybe don't know in terms of a complete solution that we bring out there from a product perspective, we're definitely talking today about E3 WireWorks, which is highlighted on this slide. But in terms of our easy button, we can touch all facets of your design process, whether it's engineering analysis, data management, automating the design and sales automation piece of your business. Maybe you want to make some improvements to the technical documentation process with 3D via Composer, or you need to get some rapid prototyping underway. We've got something that can assist you with that. A number of customers that we have out there, it's over 2,000. Certainly, we've had the opportunity to work with some of Canada's best organizations and help them make the types of improvements that we'll be talking about today. Zuken, if you don't know, many of the people who are with us today have seen this presentation already, but I just want to make sure everybody knows. E3 WireWorks is developed by a company called Zuken, and Zuken has been around for a number of years. So has their E3 product line. So this is not a new product. It's a product with a strong background, backed by a very profitable company that's listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. They're on the Tier 1, which essentially means that they're very financially stable and they're a dependable organization in the past, present, and going forward in the future. So let's get into a little bit about E3.WireWorks. E3.WireWorks, it's associative. It's fully integrated with SolidWorks. Changes that you make to a schematic are going to be updated everywhere automatically. So if you change something in the schematic, the panel view is going to update, the cable view is going to update, the Formboard view is going to update, and you can even update SolidWorks. So if you're familiar with the SolidWorks product line, essentially the same way the mechanical designer can make a change to a part and it updates in an assembly and in a drawing view, the same thing is going to happen for an electrical designer. Or if you even go in and make a change to the bill of materials or cable, all these other views of your project are going to be updated automatically for you. And that's exactly how we're going to solve this problem of all the time spent updating your electrical documentation. So here's a view of how these things start to work together. There's three sort of bands on this slide. On the top we have SolidWorks Enterprise, in the middle we have SolidWorks Mechanical Design, and in the lower band we have E3.WireWorks. We have your schematics, your cables, your panel views, etc. And I just want to take a minute and describe how these things start to work together. So E3.WireWorks and SolidWorks work in conjunction with Enterprise PDM, which allows you to start to pull together your bills of materials and keep your electrical and mechanical designs well managed and in sync. What we'll be highlighting today is the from-to information being passed back and forth, or the SolidWorks integration between E3.WireWorks and SolidWorks. We're also going to highlight how E3.WireWorks highlights between, or you can jump in between your electrical and mechanical designs between SolidWorks and E3. So that's some very exciting things. In a follow-on presentation, if you start to use Formboard functionality, you can also pass wire links back to E3 and create full-size, one-to-one scale harnesses. So here's a step up in terms of really at a very high level in terms of what Javelin is trying to bring to each of your companies and the value that we offer. Let's just walk through a very high level view of what we're trying to accomplish. This is a view of the mechanical world. We have SolidWorks in the bottom right hand corner. That's the mechanical design process, and there's an analysis process that sits on top of that, and there's something that we've written called property links, which allows us to populate our mechanical designs with things that will be needed downstream. So that mechanical information gets passed into Enterprise, and what that does is it makes design information available to the rest of the organization, the internal organization and the external organization, in a managed way, so that people have the information that they need when they need it. They can search for it and they can find it. And that alleviates problems like people coming in off the shop floor and asking a designer, where's my drawing, or I missed a dimension. There's good collaboration tools to work together. Moving over to the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, mechanical design, lo and behold, isn't the only type of design that happens inside of an organization. Linked to mechanical design is design automation, maybe technical documentation, and what we're here to talk about today, electrical engineering that takes place, or electrical design. And those processes are synced up, or need to be synced up, directly with the mechanical design process. And that's what you see with information being passed back and forth between those different design disciplines, but also being managed by this same SolidWorks Enterprise PDM tool and being made available to all the other people inside of the organization. So what you have is your mechanical and your electrical information in sync, centrally organized, and made available to other people. Now let's flip over from the sort of design side of the discussion into the manufacturing side of the organization. So something that Javelin has done is we've pulled together, or we've developed an administrative automation tool called Enterprise Assistant and an ERP link, which allows us to take that information from SolidWorks Enterprise PDM Vault and make it available in an automated fashion to outside vendors or to your ERP system, In essence, once these designs are completed, you may need to create a massive amount of DWG files or PDF files, or bills of materials may need to be handed off to your ERP system. So what we've created is a an area of your business where you can have rapid change between electrical design, mechanical design, technical documentation that's very well managed. And when those projects are ready for manufacturing, we can hand it off in an automated fashion to the ERP system to facilitate that process. A final note on this is that Property Links is actually able to read information back out of the ERP system, so you can pull vendor information and costing back into your mechanical designs if you need to make that information available. So this is really what we're trying to do with all of our customers, is create this integrated system of data flow to make things happen seamlessly for you. So let me jump back down a number of steps into just electrical design. We popped a slide up previously about Javelin's customers. These are some of Zuken's customers, and certainly some of the best and brightest that they've worked with. As we've mentioned before, Zuken's E3 product line is not a new product line, so it's something that's in use today. So I just wanted to put these things up there. L3 Communications is a Javelin customer. ABB is a Javelin customer. Michelin's a Javelin customer. I'm not sure if all those names are up there, but I'm sure you guys will see some names that are of interest. So I just wanted to do a case study before we jump into things. I think this is my last slide before we flip over to the demonstration, and then I'll quit blabbing on here for a little bit. But I just wanted to tell a story. So Emergency One obviously is a company that makes fire trucks, and they had a very lengthy electrical installation process. There was delays to the completion of vehicles because parts didn't arrive on time. The proper cable harnesses weren't built. They had a large number of configurations and options that kind of happen along the way. And in order to facilitate that process, they needed a number of specialist electrical installers to be available. So what they decided they need to do is, rather than sorting these problems out on the shop floor, where I think everyone realizes it's very high cost to do that, they wanted to define that electrical design as early on in the process as they could. So they went through the process that many of you are probably considering today. They went out and they looked at electrical design software, and they chose Zuken's E3 product line. And in doing that, they solved the problems that they had. And I think that the point of the story that I want to get out there, because this is easy to use software, it's easy to implement software, is within 6 to 8 weeks of their purchase decision, their first cable harnesses were already coming off their Formboards, and they had their first fire truck going out the door. So I think that story is just a testament to solving not only some real world problems, but also just a testament to the ease of use of the software, and that you can start seeing real world benefits very early on. So that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to later.
All right. Okay. So I'll bring it over back to E3.WireWorks now. Now I know that a big part of the crowd is new, so I'm going to apologize for the people that are repeat. I did want to recap some of the stuff that I went over last time, because I think it is a pretty important look at just electrical design in general. So here we have an electrical schematic, and I thought I'd start out just by talking about some of the schematic symbols and jumping around and navigating. So this contact relay does not only exist in the schematic, but it exists in obviously my tree, which is keeping track of all the devices that I have, and also exists in my panel. So this contact relay is, or what E3.WireWorks does, is keep those all up to date as you're working around. So let's jump back to the schematic, and then of course you can see the tree there as well. One thing that I really like is how E3 keeps track of what you're consuming from a device. So this contact relay obviously has quite a few different schematic symbols that are associated with it. The blue indicates that it's not that it's consumed, and you can see exactly where it is in the sheet references, which stay automatically up to date. And the yellow indicates that it's not consumed yet. In order to use it, it's just as simple as dragging and dropping those devices or those symbols into your design. It will automatically split any associated wiring and keep everything up to date. Let's take a quick look at that reference here as well. So you can see that Q3 is referenced at 1310. And if I were to move that to another position down a little bit further, it's at 1311. So E3.WireWorks just keeps all that stuff up to date. and you really don't have to worry about it as you're doing your design work. What we can also do is automatically rename all these devices based on their location in your design. So they just came in with a designator queue and did your labeling, but it's incredibly easy just to go rename all your devices, and it will, based on your grid, rename all of your devices. In this case, it's on page 13, and it's on the 4th row, and it's queue there as well. So just keeping track of that stuff is just so much easier within E3. Let's actually take a look at both the schematic and the panel now at the same time. So here we have, of course, those same devices are also renamed, 13Q04 and 13Q08. And the device that I just put in there actually has some signal logic as well. So we can see that between those two devices, we now have a connection. And that connection is represented, let's just quickly refresh the signals here, is represented by this red dotted line. So the logic from your schematic carries over to any panel design that you do. In this red dotted line, if you keep your eyes on that, as soon as I delete this schematic symbol, you'll notice that dotted line gets deleted. So it keeps track of that. You don't have to worry about it. And one of my favorite things is taking all those red dotted lines and turning them into wiring automatically. You can just auto connect and all of them turn into wiring. Go to your closest tracks, and then you don't have to worry about any of your wire lengths and everything like that. So all in all, just a general overview of some of the key functionality in E3.WireWorks. I did want to do a project from scratch real quick as well, just to give you an idea of how some of this works. So let's start out by looking at the library. The library has thousands of components in it with all of their associated schematic symbols and all of their associated properties for your panel design as well. It's very easy to search by supplier as well, or really any attribute that you like. So you can go down to Siemens, for instance. You can see that there's literally 1,000 components from Siemens from multiple different categories. And let's filter that list just a little bit more. Let's focus in on just a few demo examples for today. I'm a big fan of working with subcircuits. If you do have wiring that is common between many different parts of your design that you use over and over again, it's a great example, just feeding power into your design. You can just drag and drop a subcircuit in, and then you can continue designing without doing all that stuff from scratch. One thing that I didn't cover last time, but I think is a pretty important aspect for a lot of our customers out there, is the possibility of working with the combination of hydraulic and electrical. So I'm not going to go into all those details. That's something I'm going to save for another webinar, but I'll give you a quick preview. This particular device, which is a pump, shows up as a pump when you're doing hydraulic design, but shows up as a motor when you're doing the electrical design. So just seeing how it knows what you're dealing with and uses the appropriate schematic symbol is just a huge time saver, and just make sure that the accuracy and everything stays up to date. So we do have a motor we want to wire in, and let's drop in a couple other devices. We'll drop in a circuit breaker, just drop that in line there, and we'll also drop in maybe a contactor as well. You don't have to drop it directly into your design. It's nice to know that you can drop in stuff into your tree, and that just allows you to make it available for future use. So all the symbols are now yellow, meaning I can go and drag any one of these symbols and go and drag it into my design. You might want to have a couple terminals as well to separate where you want the motor. So we can drag in a single terminal to say exactly where we want it there. And one thing I really like is the intelligence behind the terminals as well, because you can just go and drag in multiple terminals, and what happens is that they will automatically be added as part of a terminal strip. So you can see that they're all X6 as part of my design there. And there's 1, 2, 3. And if you add like a fourth one, for instance, E3 in a minute, we can show that the automatic update of this, the jumpers and everything between it as well. So we do have to equip some devices, and we do want to connect them together. That's just a matter of drawing a box around them, and E3.WireWorks will connect everything logically together. We'll obviously put in connectors as well for anything that needs to be connected to the motor. So there we have a plug. Let's do a little bit of wiring separate from that. So you can do wiring from multiple connections at a time. Going around bends is very easy. And also adding on to another existing lines like that, just staggering them can be quite easy as well. And now we have a simple design, a few schematic symbols, and some logic between there. To finish this off, let's see what this looks like in a panel. So we'll go New Sheet. We will do a new panel design. And we'll drop in a new panel to drive some of those devices into. The way E3.WireWorks categorizes your 3D or physical shapes for paneling is two main tabs. We have our placed objects. So far we only have our panel. And we have unplaced objects, well, which is really everything because we haven't done anything in our panel design yet. Let's go and drop a couple of those in. Just a matter of dropping them and snapping them onto the appropriate rail. So E3.WireWorks keeps track of what rails items fit on. And then, of course, we can take these terminal blocks and drag those on as well. And all of the logic from the schematic that I did before carries over into those red lines. We can actually select all of those at once and auto-connect them, and it will do all of your wiring. And one of my favorites is the fact that you can just quickly create a wire list and will not only say all of the wiring schematic, what you're connecting to and from, but the exact pin numbers, the wire that you selected, and a total length that you have as well. So there we're at about 4.5 meters. One of the big powers of doing it this way is how easy it is to make changes and to see updates. Just by some quick reorganization of those components, if I were to recreate that wire list, we'll see that we cut that 4.5 meters of wire down to, well, just over a meter. So we're saving a huge amount of wiring just with doing a little bit of planning up front. All right. So that's kind of a recap of what I did last time. But I think it was new information for a lot of the customers that are out there today. But let's go and do a little bit more focus on the cabling side of things and integration into SolidWorks. So on the cabling side, really cabling is about interconnecting systems from one system to another. Or I shouldn't say that's all what it's about, but that's a good common example. So let's use some I/O modules as an example, and I want to interconnect that with some other systems. I can drag in that component, and you can see that it not only has your schematic symbol that we just used, but it also has our three-dimensional SolidWorks, or not SolidWorks, but three-dimensional panel design part that will be used when we do panel design on this particular component. This system does want to be interconnected with some other systems, and we don't, for the sake of not creating everything from scratch, let's go and throw in a couple blocks to represent other systems. And these blocks, by the way, can also represent entire subsystems. You can have a plug going in, and this block you can represent on another sheet you can represent what's happening inside of that black box. A big part of cabling is dealing with connectors. So here we're dealing with some Deutsch connectors. You can see a nice preview of which one we're working with. And just by dragging it in, we'll notice that this connector will automatically come in as a single pin, and it's actually representing 12 connectors. So you have an option where you can have, in E3.WireWorks, it's quite flexible to have a single pin or single lines representing a multiple of the connectors that you're dealing with. That's not quite what I want to do right here. What I want to do is represent that as individual pins. So to do that, it's just simply right-click, place a single pins, and you can see exactly what you're placing there. Of course, individual pins. Let's do the same thing with this other connector at the bottom. And now we have a few receiving connectors in different systems, and we want to interconnect these systems. The same as before, we can use some quick connection. We can do like horizontal auto connect, where we can automatically put in all the pins, and it will put in the associated connectors. So it knows that this device, or let's focus in on this area, it knows that this connection is the corresponding one for to fit into the field bus. And the same thing over on this other side is if I were to, let's continue this. we'll notice that it automatically puts the DT06 12S to fit in with that 12P. So it knows what the corresponding connectors are. Very easy to interconnect system this way. I can also, if I wanted to do some folding or reversing of connections, I can easily use some hotkeys just to flip that over if I wanted to flip it into the system down there. So far we have some logical connections between the systems. We also have some connectors, which E3 of course paired up appropriately just to make sure we have the right one and make sure they end up in my bill of materials. What we don't have yet is some wiring. Now we can go apply individual wirings if we like, but more and more I'm seeing our customers deal with standard cables and working with those in a regular basis. So here I have a standard 12-core cable. It doesn't have to be industry standard, it can be your own standard that you quickly put in there. I have 12 different cores and I have it shielded as well. What I want to do is apply those to those cores. I can do that very quickly just by applying continuously and drawing a quick line through my design. So just with a quick stroke of the mouse, you can see that every single one of those lines has a different core applied to it. And now this whole area has everything I need to really communicate that this is an official cable. Now this is one way of representing our cable design is of course the logic and the interconnect between systems. Another really common way is to show a little bit more of a drawing on how to build this cable. So let's go and do that right now. Let's create a new sheet. And I'll quickly browse to that same cable that I just dropped in. There we go. This is the cable. And you can see very clearly that all these blue cores indicate that they're used, and you can see exactly what they're connecting as well. So that's all the connectors. Just by right-clicking, very easy to go and place new device views. So everything in the library in E3.WireWorks can have multiple representations of it that you use in different scenarios. In this symbol, for instance, this is the symbol that we used when we worked on that device in the logic, but to show a cable plan, sometimes it's nice to see the actual cable itself. So just by hitting place, we can put that in our design, and it will prompt me with all of my other outputs in the same way. So we'll line up a couple outputs, and we'll line that up as well. Okay. One of the nice things we'll notice is that all the logic from that we set up before is already showing me how it is connected here. And just again, simply by dragging a box over top of these, that logic is, now that it has a connection, will be replaced with the two. Same thing over here. If I wanted to plan out that there's a split and it goes over to this connection, that will take account for that logic, and that will now disappear, because that of course now has a route to go from one connector to another. You might choose to have some other information on there as well. So you can create as many device views as you like, but one of the really nice ones is just some quick tables of what information is on those particular connectors. So let's place that one as well. And of course you can see the logic between the connections right from the tables and see all of the nice pin information and all of the connector information as well. Let's turn that one off. We can go and apply links to these as well. Let's actually start maybe with an annotation. So very quick to, let's filter out my annotations that I use regularly here. So very quick to apply some annotations to those, but so far I don't actually have any length applied. You can see that there's 0 length. Mainly, actually one part of it is because I haven't associated with SolidWorks yet. The goal is to get some of these lengths coming from SolidWorks, but I can, within E3 itself, just go and apply a length myself. So if I wanted to say that this is 30 inches, I can apply this one as maybe 60. And maybe this guy over here is 100. So you can apply those lengths. And one of the things I really like to see is that taking all those lengths from one connector to another, all of those cores are in there as well, and all of that gets represented when you do a cable plan. So let's quickly look at the cable, and we'll see a plan of which cable are we dealing with there. There we go. So this is the cable we're dealing with, W2, and you can see all of the lengths of the individual wires are added up based on how we laid out that cable plan. So that can save you a lot of time if you just lay out a little bit more logically how you want to go and create and fabricate that particular cable. So just as a quick reminder, I'm sure most of you have figured that one out, but if you do have any questions, feel free to type them in on the right side of the control panel from this GoToMeeting application, and we'll do our best at answering them. But really what I wanted to talk about now is about that integration with SolidWorks. Is there any poll questions you wanted to do in the middle, or should we wait till the end?
Why don't we save them up for the end here? Why don't you keep going with SolidWorks integration?
Okay, perfect. So on the SolidWorks front, I'm going to use an existing project here and just represent, or just talk about that the E3.WireWorks side is obviously this package of electrical information, and we can see all these different schematics. And this SolidWorks design is obviously exists in SolidWorks. So these are the two different applications. The goal with this bridge between them is to integrate the two together. So what does that mean? Well, it means a lot of different things to many people, but the place that we're starting is about automatically taking the logic and driving it into SolidWorks Routing, and then and also showing some cross-highlighting and some interaction between the two as well. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So what we need to do is find what we want to export. So within E3.WireWorks, you do want to know kind of how systems interconnect. So here we have our motor, and our motor is obviously represented in the SolidWorks as well. And we have this wire simply connecting the panel on the side of this Howmiller machine with the motor. So as a simple start-off example, we're going to communicate this W1. So how do we go about doing that? What we want to do is use the SolidWorks Bridge. So within E3, we do have a SolidWorks drop-down menu, and that gives you a wide variety of tools. We have a bridge for importing and exporting, and we have some utilities just to help highlight and work with the two at the same time. You can go and produce an entire library in SolidWorks of your components, connectors, and terminals so that it cross-references, and that takes all of the E3 information and makes it available to SolidWorks. And then individually, you want to work on a project-by-project basis by exporting the route. So let's go and take that W1 as an example. I'll go and save that, and I'll go and save that. Actually, maybe I'll just save it to my desktop here. Oh. And where's my desktop? There we go. So we'll go and save and replace it. Perfect. So that's going to export that from-to information from E3.WireWorks. And that now is going to be available in SolidWorks. So how do you use that in SolidWorks? With your from-to routing. So SolidWorks has had this option for many years, but we have yet to, well, now we finally have an application that we recommend to go and produce it from your logical schematic. The way that it works is you go and open up your from-to list as an XML document. You can create, or then you select, of course, OK. And then you say, yes, I do want to start placing components. So what E3.WireWorks does with its library is it cross-references what your components are with SolidWorks models. And then, of course, it will automatically call them up if they're in your library with that SolidWorks name. So here we have our first connector. We'll attach that to the panel. We'll do our second connector. We're utilizing smart mates here as well to ensure that things snap together appropriately. And then what we'll notice is that there's a logical connection between the two. So here we have a nice line that's representing from one connector to another, and what we want to do is reroute that to go through these clips. So all we do is pick where we want to reroute it. It doesn't have to be through clips. You can really reroute through any line or axes, whatever you like, and select OK. So very simple example so far. Let's see something a little more complex. So I'm going to go back to my capping machine part. Actually, I can go right to my bridge and say, let's export this other wire, and we'll export that to the same spot. There we go. Let's just do the two. There we go. So what we're going to do is export a more complex route or cable harness from E3 over to SolidWorks. And what I do want to do is take a look at that route right now. So we do have a cable plan. This one's complex enough that we want to, this one's complex enough that we do want to do a full logical layout on how this is created. So you can see that there's a bunch of connectors. This is some system interconnect, and it distributes to some sensors that are distributed throughout the entire system. What does that look like within SolidWorks? Well, let's take a quick look by using that same from-to routing. So I'm back in SolidWorks using the same from to option. In this case, I'll call in my other XML document, select OK, and I'll start placing them. Perfect. So the first component that we're placing is actually, just want to make sure your screen catches up. The first component that we're looking at here is actually a component which already exists on my design. So it's not an uncommon request to have components or to do the electrical schematic while a mechanical engineer already has that device in the field. So this is a great example of that. It exists in both. What we do have an option here is instead of inserting a new component, we want to select a component. So for this device, that first one, we want to select the one that already exists in that field. So a great example. That can work really great for motors, variable frequency drives, really anything that's out in the field that needs to be interconnected. For all these other ones, we can of course see a preview and then go around as a designer and interconnect them. So let's go and navigate around. I'll drop in a couple of these wire ends onto this emergency stop. Okay. I'll navigate around and drop in the connector that goes into the panel. There we go. We do have a couple sensors, so I'll drop those onto, or these are connectors that mount onto sensors, so they of course have a nice mating there. And we'll snap on a connector onto our controller there as well. Once you've selected all of them, you can select OK and of course go into the logic behind them. So all of these yellow dotted lines correspond directly with all of these logical lines between the connectors. Okay, so we're already seeing some correlation between them, and that is what gets carried over. What we can do though is now use SolidWorks Routing to determine what sort of connection or logical connection we have between them, or physical connection. So what we'll do is let's start out with some guidelines, because guidelines is a great way in SolidWorks Routing to merge things together. Okay, so we just hit merge. So you can merge them together and you can see that they combine into a single logic line. Then you can use reroute, and you can say this particular wire route wants to get routed around this machine, following in some clips and maybe follows some other axes as well. So we can just go around selecting everything that we want to follow, and it will automatically extend this particular wire. There you go, and put that into our route. Select OK there. Another great example is these two sensors. So we have two of them that we want to really combine into one. So again, we can use our merge, and we can use our reroute to take that spline and reroute it through the exact same clip. And then the second part of it will automatically combine. Let's keep going here. We have reroute. We have our device over there. We'll just select a few clips that we want to go through and add that one to the mix. There we go. And we'll finish off with our last one. We'll do reroute and go between the clips. Oh, forgot to select it. There we go. Perfect. So fairly quickly, we took all of that logic from E3.WireWorks and we laid out a pretty sophisticated route here within SolidWorks. And just so we get an idea of what exactly happened, let's go and isolate the two routes that we had. So we can just use SolidWorks tools just to say isolate. And this is the work that we just took from E3.WireWorks that we went and laid out more logically in SolidWorks. All of the links now are within SolidWorks, and those can be imported right back to E3.WireWorks. So you can load in the XML file and then go and create, and you can go into more of the Formboard side of E3.WireWorks, something that I think I'm going to save for a webinar down the road. Something I do want to show today, though, and maybe this is a great way to end off, is really about working with the two systems at once. So let's use a quick Windows 7 trick here, if I can see two windows at once just by spreading them out. There we go. So this is one of my favorite parts of Solid, or the connection, is the fact that you can take your logic from E3.WireWorks, select on anything that you're working on, and you can cross-highlight that with SolidWorks. So this connection corresponds to this connection within SolidWorks. We'll go over here, navigate around, and that's one of the sensors. We'll navigate to the top left sensor, and we'll cross-reference that with that sensor. And maybe we'll go right over here, hit cross-reference again, and go to that connection. So very quick to navigate around between those branches and the different devices, and really you see the power of working with both of those applications at the same time. So the way that we'd recommend working with this, we have some customers that the routing is something that the mechanical design is taking on, but we have customers who are also pretty adamant that that the electrical design or the electrical designers really should spend some time in SolidWorks to do the routing. There's good arguments either way, but I think there's strong arguments regardless of the scenario of representing this in SolidWorks, because SolidWorks routing makes it fairly straightforward, and also there's just a huge amount of power to get the accurate information on the back end. So that's all I had planned for today. Is there any questions that I could answer
Right here. So in summary, what are we proposing? We're proposing an electrical design tool that has multiple views of the same project, and it's fully associative. The schematic, the cable, the harness, the panel, even SolidWorks are fully up to date all the time. There are online design rule checks. We didn't cover those today, but they'll alert users to real and potential errors as the design proceeds, so you can eliminate rework down the road. There's an electrically aware component library, and that's what really allows you to do the things that you saw Eric do in the cable and the panel and the schematic design. These parts know how they go together and what they are essentially. One of the advantages, there's a number of advantages of working with Javelin and E3.WireWorks from Zuken, and I think those are that we bring an integration not only between the electrical design package and the mechanical design package. We can also integrate that into your overall data process flow through EPDM. In addition, and I do believe this is an important one, you can get these. You can now get an electrical design package and a mechanical design package from one reseller, which means you can work with one partner to make sure that these things are working as advertised, and you can be successful with them. And then last point, it's not new software. It's a very complete, robust system. It's been on the market for a number of years, and it's from a very stable, proven company. It's from Zuken.